And then there were 8. The NFL season is coming down to the wire as we enter the divisional round of the 2024 playoffs. The wildcard round ended up having a lot of blowout games, with a couple of surprising outcomes and choke jobs here and there. But mostly, I think we're all just kind of hoping that things will be a bit more interesting and we'll have some tighter games here in the divisional round. In the wildcard round, I sadly only went 3-3 with my predictions, so I'm going to see if I can go 4-0 this week, but knowing my luck, I'm going to end up only getting like one of these games right. So let's dive straight into it. We've got 4 exciting games to decide who is heading to the conference championship, and to begin on Saturday at around 4:30 p.m. Eastern, you've got the Houston Texans pulling off a big-time win over the Cleveland Browns, taking on the number 1 seed in the AFC, the Baltimore Ravens. A very interesting game ahead of ourselves here. All the pressure is essentially on the Ravens to try and get this W. Most of us would agree they are clearly the more talented team, and their program is a lot further developed, so they should be walking away with this win on paper, but you already know that because of something like that, all the pressure is on them to win this game. They're in front of their home crowd, they're clearly a Super Bowl favorite, so it's on them to win this game. It is their game to lose. And we also have to answer if Lamar Jackson truly is ready for the playoffs now, if he is a changed man. To this day, he still only has one postseason win to his name, so he's going to look to build upon that and show that he's a different man now. And I think the Texans are a pretty good match for him. That defense did have a great performance against the Cleveland Browns, but Joe Flacco, like a lot of other random backup quarterbacks, kind of fizzled out after having a couple of good weeks. So I think playing against a more normal opponent, that this Texans defense should be struggling a bit more, and we should see a higher scoring matchup, at least from the opponent. But what matters is they showed they can make the plays when it matters and that the lights aren't too bright for them. And more specifically, I think why this game is scary is that the Ravens defense might have trouble with CJ Stroud. He might be a rookie player, but after what he did to Cleveland's defense last weekend, it's pretty obvious how capable he is and that he is a star in the making right now. I'm liking what I'm seeing from this guy a lot. And again, the Texans don't really have any pressure on themselves to perform. Nobody anticipated them to even make the playoffs this season or win their division, let alone make it to the second round of the playoffs. Yet again, there is going to be most people, at least, not believing in them in the slightest to win this game. So they can just go out there and do their thing and try and find a rhythm with their offense again. Now, I don't think it's going to be as easy as the Cleveland game to find points, but I think in general, if CJ Stroud really is up to the task like we've seen, with him being ready for primetime, that he'll eventually find some holes in this Ravens defense and maybe put up some points to make this an interesting match and make the Ravens maybe a little bit worried. We saw what happened after people were saying he was going to lose in the Cleveland match. That put a big chip on his shoulder, and it made him play better. That extra motivation is huge, and he's probably going to get that boost yet again. And I think, after winning that Cleveland game, the Texans are going to come out swinging and make this a super close game, especially in the first half, maybe even for 3 quarters. Although, in the end, I am picking the Ravens to win this game. Maybe by, like, the beginning of the 4th, they'll run away with this one. For a while, it'll be a struggle, but I just think they are the better team, and they have a couple of key advantages that I think will keep this from getting too out of hand. Advantage number 1 is the secondary. In my opinion, it's definitely better than Cleveland's. They have a couple more noteworthy names over there, and I just think as a result, they'll be less susceptible to those big deep balls that we like to see the Texans throw, and they might do a better job of containing Nico Collins as a result. Advantage number 2 that I like about the Ravens that also has to do with their defense is that I think they're just going to be a lot better than Cleveland at stopping the run. That linebacking core is arguably the best in the NFL, and I think that's going to be a big-time problem for a Houston team that has been relying on their run as of late. It's been a big aspect of their success in the last handful of weeks. The rise of Devin Singletary. We saw it in the Cleveland game, how much of an advantage it gave them, and how much it opened up the rest of their offense. I think over time, they're not going to get those big chunk plays on the ground. They're going to be more desperate to take shots, and because they won't have the deep ball, there's a good chance they're going to take a couple sacks. Maybe early on the Ravens will have to make adjustments and the score will be pretty high, but I think over time they will assert their will over a young Texans team and they'll get this win. As for the other matchup on the first day of the divisional round, we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the San Francisco 49ers, Saturday Night Football. This one I'm a little surprised about. I did not foresee the Packers defeating the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are chokers in the playoffs, but usually not until the second round. And the fact that Green Bay blew them out in their own building like that, when it's been like years since the Dallas Cowboys have lost there, is pretty impressive. I was very, very impressed with their game plan. They drew it up perfectly. Jordan Love looked amazing. I did not expect him to play that well in a game like that. Aaron Jones looks rejuvenated, going back into top season form. This Packers team is clicking right now, and you already know that a game against the 49ers is very meaningful for this group as a whole, just knowing their history against them and how they can never get by them no matter the season. But that was in the Aaron Rodgers era, and now it almost feels like the roles have reversed. Instead of Green Bay being the team primed to go on a Super Bowl run, it's the 49ers in that position. Green Bay is the one that is kind of this team on the rise with a new quarterback and a new system in their rebuild. And because of that, they have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. However, they're obviously going to be major underdogs in this game, and I highly doubt it's going to go the same way as it did against Dallas, where they got a big lead early on and didn't look back. The Packers deserve a lot of credit for how they played in that Dallas game. They played gutsy, they played hard, and they were clearly the better team. But you have to remember that the Dallas Cowboys are a pretty fraudulent team. Usually they don't lose until like the second round of the playoffs, like I was saying, but you can't change the fact that they mostly capitalized on the weaker opponents on their schedule this season, and that the above 500 teams usually gave them a lot of trouble, and in a lot of instances they were getting straight up blown out. So I don't know how much I can really rate the Cowboys compared to a 49ers team that clearly is the most talented in the NFC. These playoffs are very meaningful for these guys. After the ending that happened last year in the NFC Championship, they're going to go out there and play their hearts out. I already know that there is a fire lit under these guys, and I don't think they're going to let a Packers wildcard team get in their way. It would be hilarious if it did happen, but I think there's just too much on the line, and this Niners team is significantly better on paper. I give the Packers a lot of credit for playing pretty well defensively against Dallas, at least in the first half, but man, I don't think they're going to have the same luck against such a high-octane offense in San Francisco. The Packers have been pretty weak against the run, and the Niners are a lot more run-heavy than a team like Dallas, and I think McCaffrey's going to end up having a big day, and the Niners will end up cruising to a relatively easy victory. I like this Packers team a lot. They're scrappy. Jordan Love has proved himself, but I don't think they're ready for something like this. The Niners can just have a lot of good run plays and control time of possession, or in their typical fashion, they can just score it well and the Packers will fall behind. There's a lot of playmakers with Ayuk and Samuel and with Kittle and McCaffrey being a good receiving and running back. There's just too many layers for this Packers team to worry about. And let's not forget that LaFleur against Shanahan usually doesn't do too well, and I'd expect the same outcome to happen here, especially with how good this Niners team is in their current form. Anyway, next, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Detroit Lions on Sunday at around 3 Eastern. Both of these teams reaped the benefits of having a pretty good wildcard round. Detroit won a pretty fun game against the Rams, where their offense started off high-flying, and they were able to hold off after that. But they're playing a Bucs team here on the road that ended up destroying the Eagles. I mean, it wasn't even close right from the start. They just ran away with that thing. Baker looked excellent. The defense was getting stops. Tampa Bay's in a really good spot right now, and because no one believes in them, they are a scary dark horse. Baker, you already know he's going to go out there and do absolutely everything to win this game. There's just so much meaning behind it for him. And I'd be worried knowing that Detroit's defense is pretty susceptible to giving up a lot of yards. We've seen it a lot. Matt Stafford, despite being hurt, absolutely torched them last week, and I see no reason to believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can't do the same. They have a lot of playmakers. They have a good run game as well. I get the feeling this one will be a very high-scoring game, and I'm actually kind of worried the Lions could be susceptible to an upset here. However, the Lions are definitely the favorites, and they are who I am picking to win this matchup. The high right now of getting that first win in their own playoff stadium, that's just a big morale boost. And I think they're going to ride that high and continue to play well. It only takes one to get you on the right track. This is what they've been dreaming of for years, building up their program for this exact situation. And I don't think they're going to waste it. They have that great dual threat with their running back situation. Jared Goff is as confident as ever. The last time he played Tampa, he put up like over 300 yards, I believe. He had a great game. And I think the same's going to happen here, just because of the fact that they beat the Rams, they beat Matt Stafford, they're playing in front of their home crowd again. I think they're going to use that energy to their advantage. The Buccaneers, I still don't totally know what to expect of them right now. Yes, I think they will make this interesting, but I don't know how much I can trust them against a real opponent. I mean, no offense to them, because that win against Philly was great, but the Eagles have been getting beaten by everybody left and right. I mean, they lost to the Cardinals and the Giants, so you can only give them so much credit, and I think against a real team, they will eventually fumble, although I do think it'll be maybe like a 1-2 score game. There's going to be a lot of points for sure, but give me Detroit. And finally, wrapping up divisional round weekend, the Kansas City Chiefs go to Buffalo to renew their rivalry with the Bills yet again. Another playoff match between these two. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes yet again. The last time these two went to the playoffs together, you already know what happened. They had that crazy match that led to the overtime stuff happening and the rule change. This is the first time they've met in the playoffs since that's happened, and I'm pretty excited for it. Buffalo versus Kansas City is always a banger. Even when Kansas City was struggling earlier this season, they still played a close game against Buffalo, and I see no reason why that won't happen again here. Their defense has been reliable all season. Buffalo is susceptible to making mistakes. They usually turn the ball over a lot, so I think that is going to end up making this a close and interesting matchup. And it really could go either way. Kansas City feel like the worst team, but you can never count Mahomes out. You just can't do it. That guy is on track to be one of the greatest players to ever touch a football. But at the same time, I don't know how they're going to do on the road. Believe it or not, but this is the first time ever that Patrick Mahomes is playing an AFC playoff game on the road. It's never happened before. That statistic is absolutely insane, but the point I'm trying to make here is that could affect your level of comfort, not being in front of the home crowd. You don't know how the Chiefs and Mahomes are going to react to such a thing, and maybe Buffalo finally being in front of their home crowd could use that to their advantage. You already know that Buffalo fans are amongst some of the most rowdy out there, and against a hated team like this, they're going to go absolutely bananas. That atmosphere is going to be electric, and it should be able to supercharge this Bills team to play even better than we've seen in some of their other playoff games against the Chiefs. Everything in my head is telling me to pick the Chiefs, just knowing their playoff history and what Mahomes can do in that defense, but I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills, baby. And my reasoning behind it is that I just think they're the team of destiny this time around, to at least make it to the AFC Championship bare minimum. But they were my preseason Super Bowl pick, and I want to believe in them to finally get to the big dance for the first time since the 90s. It just feels different, this Buffalo team. They overcame a lot of adversity early in the season, and since getting rid of their offensive coordinator, they've been ripping off a huge win streak. The team has looked a lot better in general. Josh Allen's been putting the team on his back, looking great as a dual threat quarterback, and I don't want to go against that. He just feels like he is at a ultra clutch level of play right now. He's been playing well in a lot of big games, and I think he's going to come through and get this win. He knows how much it means. I think this Buffalo team in general knows how much it means. In all likelihood, this will be their final chance before this core gets blown up. They've failed so many times in a row, and you already know that it's kind of already reached its boiling point in other seasons, so this would be the dagger, so to speak, if they can't get to the Super Bowl again. This one means too much to them. For Kansas City, it's not as meaningful. Yeah, it can affect some of their legacies. It could be a great way maybe for Travis Kelce to even ride into the sunset with Taylor Swift with another Super Bowl ring. I could see it happening. But Kansas City, I just don't think they have the talent, or their hearts really aren't in it as much either. It seems like they've woken up for the playoffs, but I don't think they're ready for this Buffalo team and how hard they're going to play. The Chiefs are just too susceptible to making mistakes on offense. They looked a lot cleaner in the Miami game, but we saw Travis Kelce still had a lot of drops in that game. Key drops that could be huge in deciding the outcome of a game against Buffalo. It's not like playing against Miami. And that's not even factoring bring in his other receivers who are prone to making those drops outside of Rashee Rice. A lot of those mistakes that happened in the Miami game we were quick to forget about since the Dolphins were absolutely garbage in that cold weather, you know? Against Buffalo, those things are going to hold a lot more weight to it, and I think they are bound to have some of those execution issues as they usually do, and the Bills are going to take advantage of it, just knowing that they're at home, and this is probably their final chance to get to the Super Bowl together. They're not going to waste it, I believe. They have more talent with the receiving core, more notable hands. Diggs is susceptible to disappearing in these big games, but they have other weapons to make up for it. They have two solid red zone threats with their tight ends. Josh Allen has been excellent both with his arm and with his legs, showing that he can break off 50-plus yard plays like in that Steelers match. He's typically been finding the end zone a lot as of late. You can't underestimate James Cook either, and the Chiefs have given up over like 1,900 yards on the ground, I believe. They're like middle of the pack there, so Buffalo might be able to assert their will there and get this win. It's probably not going to be a super high scoring game like in previous playoff matches, but I think in the end Buffalo will edge out this win with some cleaner execution on offense to finally get by their bugaboo and make it back to the AFC title game. I'm very unsure about this one overall, but as a guy that wants to see Buffalo succeed, I just want them to get through. I am choosing to believe in them, and hopefully that does not bite me in the butt. Anyway, that's going to do it for my predictions for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win? Do you think any upsets will happen? Let me know all your thoughts. And of course, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL content.